Dear friends, dear neighbors, very warm welcome to you all in Tirana to another highlight gathering in the growing friendship and the shared European destiny that binds us. And please join me in welcoming here today the President of the European Commission, the dear friend of Albania and of all our region, Ursula von der Leyen. Thank you, dear Ursula, all our region, Ursula von der Leyen. Thank you, dear Ursula, for coming back to the Western Balkans to bring more good news to us and, of course, more homework for us, but also to enjoy more sun, better food, and certainly less boredom than in your EU Brussels bubble. With your permission, Madam President, I would like to extend a special thank you to your team for their remarkable cooperation to make this happen, and in particular to your Director General, Gert-Jan, for having shared with us his sharp thoughts about the usefulness of such an investment conference between the EU and the Western Balkans. A conference that we are eager to turn into a yearly rendezvous with an ever more ambitious program. Dear participants, for too long the story of Europe and the Western Balkans has been written in the grammar of waiting. Waiting for the EU became almost synonymous with waiting for Godot. At one point it became nerve-wracking. Albania and North Macedonia became the reinvention of Vladimir and Estragon, impossible to decouple, condemned to wait together. Nevertheless, we never stopped dreaming about the moment when the story would change. And we never stopped working so that when that moment came, it would find us ready, prepared and ahead of schedule. And it went precisely like this. When the moment did come, we were ready to embark together with the European Commission on a negotiation process that could not be more intense nor more liberated from the ghosts of the past. From our bid for membership to our appetite for growth, a new map is being drawn, not on paper, but in the pace of our closeness with the European Union, in the flow of European tourists and investments, and in the awakening of a simple but powerful idea that the Western Balkans are not Europe's backyard, nor its second-hand neighborhood, but its new frontier. A new frontier not of walls and borders, but of energy and imagination. A frontier where Europe can rediscover her agility, her hunger, her creative drive, and above all, her love for life, for peace, and for togetherness. The more we look at the world around us, where the great game of economies moves faster, where supply chains tremble, where technologies reshape life every hour, and where the green transition demands not only rules but courage, the more we feel, as never before, the need for more Europe. And right here in the heart of this peninsula, once dismissed as the periphery or labeled the powder keg of Europe, lies a region growing twice as fast as the European average, carrying low debt, and more importantly, an entrepreneurial energy that is not afraid of tomorrow. That is not a coincidence. That is a new frontier. The new frontier means to me a place where European investments find a new speed, where innovation is not buried under paper, where resilience is not a slogan, but a daily necessity, met with unconditioned dedication to the unification of Europe. A place where projects can move from idea to reality faster than anywhere else on the continent, where regulations are not a labyrinth but a ladder, where the private sector and governments move not in parallel lines but in convergence as partners in a shared future. A place where the EU and this region meet not just to talk about the future, but to make the future happen. It doesn't need much science, but it does need some courage to realize that the Western Balkans can become Europe's regulatory sandbox, its laboratory of resilience, a space to test, to build, and to prove the future. From energy and critical raw materials to AI infrastructure and high-tech manufacturing, this is where European value chains can expand, can diversify, and can grow stronger. Because, let's face it, Europe cannot afford to depend on what it cannot control. And we in the Balkans cannot afford to remain what we have always been called at best, potential. So let's replace potential with purpose. Let's turn this corner of Europe into a fast lane for Europe's transformation. Let us imagine a common new frontier zone, a connected ecosystem where investments are approved not in years but in months, where compliance is simple and transparent, helped by innovation, digitalization, artificial intelligence, where the laws of the market meet the values of the Union. Let's make it a living space for nearshoring, not just in production, but in trust. Let's make it a place where European companies come not for cheap labor, but for smart partnerships. We know our place. We are not asking to be granted for free a seat at the table. We are asking to help the EU in its effort to build the table anew. Because enlargement, or unification as I prefer to call it, cannot be only about geography. It must be about strategic intelligence. The Western Balkans are not a problem to be solved, but a solution waiting to be integrated. This is the message of the new frontier, that the next chapter of Europe's resilience and competitiveness will not be written in Brussels alone or in the old capitals of the beautiful European Union alone, but also in Tirana, Podgorica, Belgrade, Skopje, Pristina, Sarajevo, together. From coal and steel to innovation and trust. To our European partners, we do not ask for charity, nor for gifts. We ask only for vision. The same vision that once united coal and steel to create peace can now unite innovation and investment to create resilience. The same vision that once brought fellow nations, Poland, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, and Slovenia into the European Union, opening a then new frontier that created extraordinary growth for them and brought back dividends to the European Union that it had not seen in decades. Let us together draw a roadmap where our incentives match our priorities, our reforms match our needs, and our ambitions match the Europe scale. As Albert Camus once said, real generosity toward the future lies in giving all to the present. Europe's strength will not be measured by the size of its institutions at the end, but by the reach of its imagination. An imagination that is something the Western Balkans have in abundance. So let us give all we have to this present moment, to this new frontier we can build together. And let us remember the words of Jean Monnet, one of the founding fathers of Europe. People only accept change when they are faced with necessity. and they only see necessity when a crisis is upon them. Well, necessity is here, and crisis is already upon us. So let us transform necessity into vision and crisis into creation. Sorry. If you needed the illustration of crisis, you just had it. Let us open this new frontier not with just declarations but with deeds. Let us prove that between the Alps and the Aegean there is still room for Europe to grow, and to grow wiser, to grow faster, to grow freer. And along these lines, let me quote our President, Ursula von der Leyen, who in her State of the Union made it very clear: Europe will always do better when we work together with our partners, with our neighbors, with those who share our hopes and our history. So let us work together, not only for the Europe we inherited or for the Europe we dreamt of, but for the Europe we can still imagine together. Thank you.
Thank you.